About 20 workers are owed $120,000 in wages and entitlements after a subcontractor at the Army Base construction site went broke and said he couldn't pay. The workers have been protesting against the decision, demanding the main contractor, Stewart Brothers, pay up instead. There's been a picket line on weekdays outside the base for the last month.
Mortgage was due last week and we haven't got the money to pay, so that's how tough it is.
So it's a tough time for your family?
Yeah.
Stewart Brothers have taken on other workers to finish the job, but today the redundant men and their families brushed past Army sentries to confront what they called imported scab labour. As they approached the site, it appeared to be deserted.
The bricklayers that are strike breaking took off in several different directions.
After a frenzied search for an hour, the protesters returned. Threats by civilian police of arrests for trespassing on the base were not carried out. The building union says this is a landmark case. A win will ensure workers will be compensated if subcontractors fail to meet their commitments. The contractor claims he has no obligation to pay the subcontractor's debt. The workers say they'll continue to fight the battle and have stressed they won't move until they're paid what they are owed. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
More than 3,000 people crowded Hindmarsh Stadium, but parochialism soon gave way to despair as the home team presented the visitors with an unlikely welcoming present. Robbie Hooker's own goal put the Breakers ahead 1-0 after 20 minutes, and that boosted Newcastle's confidence. But West Adelaide fired back, this shot almost sneaking past. In the second half, West Adelaide continued the pressure. But the Breakers spoilt the party with a Glenn Sprod fireball. Robbie Hooker made up for his earlier mistake with a penalty goal, but it was all too late. In other games played overnight, Melbourne CSC downed Heidelberg, South Melbourne beat Marconi, and Parramatta had a 2-0 win over Sydney Olympic. Matthew White, NBN News.
Chris and brother Darren were back in training on Lake Macquarie, fresh from defending their national 505 title in Melbourne earlier this month, and retaining the title was no easy feat.
Competition was, like the year before, extremely hard, and the conditions for our crew weight were harder than what we'd normally expect. Pressure-wise, there was a lot more pressure on us. It seems everyone expected us to be able to win.
With Chris as skipper and Darren his crewman, the pair also won the World 505 sailing title in America last July. Although modest about these career achievements, Chris has a clear view of what it takes to be a champion 505 sailor.
Basically a lot of work. I think it's the same as most sports. The talent isn't the important thing, the amount of work you put into it is.
Unlike some other sports, sailing doesn't reap the big prize money. Personal finances and sponsorship their mainstay. The next challenge for the pair, the world titles in Germany in 6 months' time. And Chris says local waters will provide their training ground. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
At yesterday's meeting, Bevan O'Regan raised the issue of the transfer of power from the local government to federal and state levels. Council also looked at the need for towns like Narrabri to become self-sufficient and only export products overseas once all local needs have been met.
There was a vote of no confidence in myself for actually trying to re-educate some of the councillors in constitutional matters that are absolutely important to local government.
But the council moved a vote of no confidence in the President. Despite the lack of support from his fellow councillors, Councillor O'Regan is confident he will continue as President.
I hopefully will push ahead and continue to try and do my job to support the people of Narrabri. It's a very, very important shire.
The President has been at the forefront of controversy surrounding the council over the past 12 months. 5 senior staff members have been suspended and shire ratepayers divided by the council's actions. The council's move to appoint a general manager should be finalised by the end of the month.
This morning, for the second time in 2 days, the Roads and Traffic Authority received a phone call warning of a bomb. As they did yesterday, police made a routine search of the building. This time, however, they found what appeared to be an explosive device. Immediately, the building on the corner of Derby and Queen Streets in Inner Newcastle was evacuated and surrounding streets cordoned off. The device was in a plastic shopping bag from Tandy's Electronics and was placed just inside a doorway. Scientific police were able to x-ray the package, and their pictures convinced police it was enough like a bomb to leave well enough alone. Experts advised that it should not be touched, nor should any attempt be made to move it. The Specialist Army Bomb Squad was called in from Sydney, the weight of their equipment forcing them to travel by road rather than by helicopter. When the Army arrived, having examined x-ray photographs of the device, experts ordered the safety perimeter be moved back and that fire and police take cover. About 4:30, the bomb disposal robot moved slowly along the footpath and climbed the ramp into the hallway, a remote television camera allowing a close-up view of the device. Then, after a warning to all personnel, a shot was fired into the parcel. To everyone's relief, there was no explosion triggered. Still, no all-clear was given. The building was to be searched thoroughly by a bomb disposal expert.
Fighter jets weren't the only things taking off at Williamtown RAAF base today. For Alvaro Gonzalez Meneghetti, dreams were also soaring.
I want to fly it.
And fly he did, thanks to the RAAF and the Make-A-Wish Foundation, an organisation that helps dreams materialise for children with life-threatening illnesses. But before Alvaro could fly, he had to be kitted out with all the gear. Even so, there had to be some makeshift tailoring to turn Alvaro into a Top Gun airman. Alvaro's mum, Alicia, looked on as her son prepared to fly.
He wanted to return to time very fast to us and to reach to this day, to be here and not going to sleep.
On the tarmac, the 10-year-old was shown over the state-of-the-art fighter, the FA-18 Hornet. But for his special flight, Alvaro was jetting back to the past in a 1950s Russian fighter, the MiG-15.
Have you been in a plane like this before?
No.
Have many of your friends been in a plane like this before?
No.
So what do you think that makes you?
Special.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
It was a gloomy and turbulent start to the final round for the Championship's overnight leaders. American-based Canberra player Michael Etherington, who started the day equal leader on 5 under, had a tough time. This recovery shot at the 7th, saving him from a tumble down the leaderboard. Also struggling, New South Welshman Paul Gow. Gow started at 5 under, but pushed 2 tee shots wide on the 8th and was forced to scramble from the rough. With English players Matt Stanford and 1991 British amateur champ Gary Woolstenholme out of contention, the tournament was wide open. It was New Zealander Phil Tartarangi and South Australian Steve Collins who held the attention of the crowd. Tartarangi started the day at 3 under. He gained just 1 stroke to finish 4 under the card. But it was 19-year-old Collins who made the most of the testing conditions. The youngster's steady hand guided him to 6 under, winning the prestigious tournament by 2 strokes.
The pay rises were granted at last night's meeting. Those on the executive level, like the town clerk, will receive a salary increase of just over $18,400. Increases have also been awarded to the Deputy Town Clerk, Director of Environmental Services, the managers of Community Facilities and Finances, and the City Librarian. The wage restructure results in marked differences between higher and lower staffing levels amongst the 750 full-time council employees. They were approved following a re-evaluation of salaries by a Sydney consultant, recommending pay rises for 21% of the staff. The council has also called for expressions of interest for the new position of City Manager, expected to be filled mid-year. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Near the wreck of the Cigna on Stockton Beach is a 500-hectare parcel of land marked for possible housing development.
The whole of the Stockton Bight is up for grabs if we don't state now what the community wants.
It was on this proposed development that Port Stephens Council contemplated banning domestic cats and dogs, a town of the future, home for up to 17,000 people. Locals are calling for a regional environmental study to protect the area from development. The greatest fear is Crown land on the beach will be used. Another site is about 2 kilometres inland. Plans have been put on public display by council, but residents say it would be madness to set up a town on the sandy soils.
The drainage is not being adequately addressed. Whenever there is heavy rains, this whole area can be underwater.
And that would create major problems for sewerage. The area is seen as space for a growing population. A spokesperson from Port Stephens Council was unavailable for comment. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Australia Day was special for these Hunter residents. It was their first day as fair dinkum Aussies. Originally from countries as diverse as China, Spain, the United States and Chile, the 60 people officially became Australian citizens during a ceremony on Newcastle's foreshore. The Reverend Ian Palmer and his family were among those who were naturalised. Ironically, these new Novocastrians were originally from Newcastle upon Tyne, our sister city in England.
It's part of being a country, a full member of a country, instead of just a visitor or someone who's just passing through, to be part of a whole country.
Meanwhile, one of our newest Aussies was born at the John Hunter Hospital early today. Chantel Elizabeth is the second daughter for Mary Howard and her husband. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Sailing lasers is for the skillful. Each competitor has the same craft. One of the best in the water is Aussie woman champ Jacqueline Ellis of Valentine, who is leading the way to regain her title at the National Championships on Lake Macquarie. But with 2 rounds to go, she's not holding her breath.
Not over till the fat lady sings, as they say, so it's always nerve-wracking sort of to be defending rather than attacking.
Sailors from across Europe and Japan are in Lake Macquarie for the titles. They're seen as a great opportunity to brush up on competition skills, with the World Championships in New Zealand just 2 months away. Jacqueline won the World Crown in 1988 and she's hoping for another good performance this year. But for the next 2 days, it's a case of winning on Lake Macquarie, not just in the women's section, but she's hoping to put a few of the fellas' noses out of joint in the open titles.
Everyone's a competitor, so if you see somebody in front of you, you obviously want to beat them, whether they're male or female.
Just after midnight, 2 police officers found the youth slumped on the floor of his cell. He was taken by ambulance to Moree District Hospital and released back into police custody a short time later.
We're always careful and caring when it comes to injuries sustained by prisoners in custody, especially juveniles, and as again I said, in this present environment.
The young prisoner had been flown from Sydney to Moree yesterday. He was on remand and was due to appear in Wee Waa Children's Court today.
At this early juncture, I can state quite unequivocally that no blame can be attributed to the police, and thankfully the young person has suffered no physical side effects from the incident.
The incident follows a spate of attempted suicides in custody. The state government has confirmed that 4 prisoners tried to hang themselves at different jails at the weekend. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Why that excites me is because I'm aware that the government has okayed the idea of casinos in principle. I know that there is private funding available, and I know the casino could generate 200 or 300 jobs in construction almost immediately, and a further 400 or 500 jobs upon completion. And they're not just jobs for today, they're long-term jobs.
A casino for Cessnock is just one of the ideas the city's mayor is pushing. Others include a rail link to the vineyards in Newcastle, new parks and recreation areas, a telecommunications centre and a tourism and hospitality university.
It has a large labour component in the tourism industry. Australia needs to develop that a little more, put some infrastructure into tourism, and what better way?
When the mining industry collapsed in the 50s and 60s, 10,000 people left Cessnock looking for work. Now in the 90s, the high unemployment is threatening another mass exodus. It's a drastic situation, the Mayor says, requires drastic measures.
We can sit back and do nothing and nothing will happen, or we can float perhaps radical ideas in the hope that the jobs will occur.
The ambitious 9-point proposal will be considered by Council tonight. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
When the wheels of industry turn, energy burns. Whether it be electric, gas or fuel, energy efficiency could be improved in Hunter businesses, according to TAFE teacher David Cypher.
Typically, from the results of audits that we have done here at the college and elsewhere, savings of 20 to 25% are not at all impossible.
To achieve those gains, the East Maitland Rotary Club, Federal Energy Minister Alan Griffiths and the Hunter Institute of Technology have combined to offer a 10-week course to small business people. Mr Cypher says better energy management means the bottom line will improve for companies.
And it has a lot to do with the way auditors work on financial statements. Basically, you look at what energy you're using, what energy you are expending, then you look where, and then you look to see if it is absolutely essential or whether perhaps savings can be made.
There are also environmental benefits.
The less power we have to generate, the less coal we have to burn, the less greenhouse gases we put up. Similarly, if we can cut down on use of natural and LP gas and fossil fuels, we save on greenhouse gases.
Up to 15 participants can enrol in the course for free. Scott Bevan, NBN News. Looking at the Union Street facade of Newcastle Fire Station, you'd think little has changed since those bricks were laid 80 years ago. But a walk behind those walls takes you into a station being transformed into a state-of-the-art headquarters. The new station is the nerve centre for all 000 calls made in northern New South Wales. With more than 100 stations under its wing, Newcastle's control room has been upgraded with 4 computerised consoles recording incoming calls. Later this year, the control room will have a new system called computer-aided dispatch. That means whenever the operator takes a 000 call, he can type the information straight into the computer and then with a touch of a button send it to the relevant station anywhere between here in Newcastle and the Queensland border.
This will certainly make it a lot easier and much more quicker in eliciting information through the 000 and dispatching it to the nearest fire brigades.
Another advantage, the computers will list all telephone numbers so hoax calls can be traced. The dramatic red and black colours splashed around the old station have gone. Instead, restful green abounds in the air-conditioned dormitories and uniform storage areas.
It's only been in the last 2 days that we've now finished and I've moved all the shifts in, and certainly the morale has lifted.
The project won't be complete until July, and by then there'll be a $1.9 million bill. But the result, says Mr Craig, is worth it.
Probably one of the best fire stations in New South Wales.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
The man was arrested at this Wyong house last night after police had kept it under observation since January the 19th. Ray Simpson appeared in Wyong court charged with possessing and supplying amphetamines and cannabis. Police also allege they found 47 fake $100 notes in the man's bedroom. Bail was refused and he was remanded in custody until February the 3rd. Police are continuing their investigations into a counterfeit racket operating throughout New South Wales. So far, fake $100 bills have been found as far north as Grafton. It's believed a number of people are involved in the operation, which police say is extensive, with thousands of dollars in fake money being circulated throughout the state. Jodie McKay, NBN News. It was a spectacular sight as the Bounty sailed into Newcastle Harbour. The ship was built in 1979 at a cost of $5 million. It's a faithful replica of the Captain Bligh original. The Bounty will provide harbour cruises during tomorrow's regatta. Also entering the harbour, the French warship La Marquise. It's based in Noumea and is one of 2 warships participating in the regatta. The other, the Bendigo, arrived yesterday. The regatta kicks off tomorrow at 9 o'clock with the Formula 2 powerboats. An hour later, the Food and Wine Festival begins, as well as the arrival of HMAS Warrnambool. 12 o'clock sees the start of ski racing, while at 2 o'clock the Navy displays their diving techniques. The action continues throughout the afternoon, and at 9 p.m. the Lord Mayor will turn on the lights at Fort Scratchley.
The Safe Summer Safari is a New South Wales AIDS Bureau education initiative that has been travelling up the coast since December. Spending most of the time at beaches, the safari is targeting the education program at 12 to 24-year-olds. They've been invited to test their knowledge about cause and prevention of the HIV virus and AIDS. A questionnaire was used, each person filling out the form in with a chance to win a surfboard. Many people discovered they didn't know as much as they thought about this deadly disease.
There's often a big gap between what they think they know and what they need to know.
.370 athletes from 14 clubs took part in day one of the championships, held in perfect weather at Kempsey Athletics Field. The meet had been postponed in December because of rain, but today there was nothing holding back the young athletes. The two-day event is for the under-7s to under-15s, with special invitation categories for the under-6-year-olds. The competitors are representing clubs from Gloucester to Stewart's Point, and despite the heat, records fell on day one in both track and field, although the strain of the day was evident on some. But the pain will be worth it for the top 4 in each event. They'll go on to represent in the regional titles to be held at Tamworth next month.
The two men entered the service station at Neath at around 2:20 this morning. Both were armed with sawn-off double-barrel shotguns. They ordered the 27-year-old attendant from Abermain to lie on the floor while they raked through the till. They also tried to get into the safe, hitting the attendant about the head with a shotgun when they couldn't find the key.
Yes, it is a pretty vicious attack when violence is used in a hold-up. It is pretty, it's pretty terrible because the attendant did want to comply with their directions, but they still assaulted him.
After the alarm was raised, the attendant was taken to hospital where he received several stitches to his head and face. According to Cessnock detective Mark Waters, it wasn't the only time the bandit struck during the night.
Shortly after this one here at Neath, there was one at in the Tukley patrol, and a similar car was seen at that time, so we believe they are connected.
In the attack on the Doyleson service station, a sawn-off shotgun was also used. The thieves again escaping with a small amount of money. The getaway car was found abandoned nearby. Police are looking for 2, possibly 3 men. One is in his mid-20s, 180 centimetres tall with black hair and a black beard. The other was wearing a black balaclava over his face. Both were wearing blue jeans and blue checkered shirts. Police also believe the 2 may be responsible for another armed hold-up on Saturday night at a Tuggerah service station. Jodie McKay, NBN News. The Richmond Vale Railway Museum near Cessnock is one of the last havens for steam engines in the state. It's also an important part of the valley's mining heritage. Now the museum will be the training ground for 24 long-term unemployed people. They'll restore the engineering workshop and its machinery. The $350,000 program has been funded through the federal government's Job Skills program with help from Cessnock City Council and the Richmond Vale Preservation Society. The 12-month project will be managed by the Hunter Valley Training Company, which has already had much success training our unemployed.
The last project we undertook at East Greta Junction workshops, there were 30 young people involved. 90% of them are now out there working. They've obtained jobs, and I believe the 24 or more young people who are here working on this project will, because of the skills that they obtain, go and find jobs after they've finished here.
Peter Winter from Abermain is one of those participating in the program. He's been unemployed for 18 months and welcomes this opportunity.
Work skills will come in very handy for later jobs. I hope to go back up the power stations after this, which will be good.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Although the region's 265 school playgrounds were empty today, the quiet atmosphere is only the calm before the storm. Nearly 83,500 students across the Hunter will return to classrooms this week. But for more than 4,700 teachers, today was set aside in preparation for tomorrow's onslaught. The recent announcement of 800 new teaching positions by State Minister for Education Virginia Chadwick has been welcomed in the Hunter.
We anticipate that out of that 800 the Minister announced that we would expect at least 15 secondary teachers in addition to last year and probably about half a dozen primary teachers.
Regional Director for Personnel Dr Don Reeve says the retention rate of students is at an all-time high of nearly 70%. Meanwhile, hundreds of inquiries from hopeful applicants jam switchboards at the Hunter Institute of Technology's Newcastle campus. Over the next 3 days, an estimated 10,000 students will join the queues for courses on offer across the region's 11 campuses. High unemployment has caused the demand for popular subjects to rise dramatically, resulting in some applicants being turned away.
But certainly some of the areas there's going to be great pressure put on, particularly in computing, where there's only X number of places available due to the equipment requirements of that course, and we're hoping to take as many as possible.
A hotline to cope with inquiries has been set up. Enrolments close on Wednesday. Melinda Smith, NBN News. Day one of rehearsals and the 9-member cast were reading through their lines. Under the direction of Kingston Anderson, the performers will spend the next month practising. Rhett Walton will take the lead role of Macbeth. Penny Cook will star opposite as his lady. Despite her long career in theatre and television, Penny says this is her first Shakespearean production.
I'm feeling a bit daunted because I've never done Shakespeare before, so my reaction was basically the general public reaction of, oh dear, Shakespeare's so difficult. But it's such a good story and such a scary piece that I think anyone will understand it.
Set in modern times, the cast plans to show how power and greed are ageless.
Just the ambition of wanting to get onward and wanting to get up and be top dog, basically. And I think that's something that never changes.
Macbeth opens at the Playhouse early next month. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Yes, we're still waiting for a return call on that. There's a 4, haven't you?
Yeah, a few times I recognised him.